Welcome to another episode of Goddamn Liberals. In this episode, we try to cram less than 2 weeks of breaking political news into 45 minutes. Here are your hosts, Will and Robert.
All right, so we have survived, almost 2 weeks since the deplorables stormed the Capitol, right?
Oh no, it's only been 9 days.
It feels like an eternity.
God, yeah. And we still have it's supposed to start going down on Sunday. Is that what the law enforcement agencies were saying?
Is that the latest, that they're going to come back into D.C. and try this all over again?
Yeah.
I mean, is there any intel that's being shared, or is the law enforcement, are they kind of keeping that close? Have you read anything?
Yeah, a lot of it is law enforcement has been keeping stuff pretty close to the chest, and then news agencies, they know more than what they're saying, but it's a good thing that they're not saying things because essentially the terrorists want news agencies to communicate the plans that they're aware of so that they can use that as a recruiting and an organizing tool. So I think it was Washington Post explicitly said in their report, we're aware of additional details and we feel it's their duty to not publish those because that would endanger people.
And here we are, the third world country that Republicans have created out of the U.S., and this is still going on.
Yep.
It's just mind-boggling.
Well, yeah, I mean, this was intentional. It's not like they can say they didn't know what they were doing. It's let's create a base that's easier to control. But the problem, of course, is when you realize, oops, this is what happens, it becomes really hard to actually step away from it. And that's when you get the reports
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, that's when you get the reports like Republicans saying, they literally fear for their lives if they vote to convict Trump because of the base that they've, again, intentionally stoked.
Yeah. So if we rewind a little bit, there's a lot that's actually happened over the past couple of weeks. The president has been impeached a second time, and so the timing of this will be interesting because, Georgia is sending 2 senators, to D.C. over the next couple of weeks. I believe the state, that there was a deadline today, I believe, here in Georgia, that the counties had to certify those votes, and then I think early mid-next week, it's expected that the state will certify and, send Warnock and Ossoff to D.C., and so the timing of all this over in the Senate, if everybody sticks together, there's enough votes there to actually fully, kick the guy out. But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, if Trump has left office, he gets impeached, he cannot run again.
Correct. Yeah. He cannot run again. And then there's a bunch of stuff that we normally do for former presidents that you would not get. So no $200,000 or whatever a year salary, no Secret Service protection. It's just sort of, it would be the nice, ultimate disgrace.
So that's an interesting one about Secret Service protection. I've actually put some memes out there that, the Secret Service was hiring for agents that are willing to relocate to Rikers Island up in New York for the state charges. But yeah, we'll see. It's just something it feels like every day with this saga from all different angles. Mm-hmm. Now, going back to, and specifically looking at Trump and his ego and what he was trying to do with the Secretary of State here in Georgia, the phone call that made worldwide news that was recorded and leaked after Trump was talking to Raffensperger here, and there was actually a pronunciation, supposedly it's Raffensperger, I don't know if that's 100% correct, but it would be a bit ironic if that was actually the pronunciation of his name, because Republicans in Georgia like to purge people from the voting rolls.
Yep.
But that's a side point there. But what do we think, other than Trump's ego, was he pressing? Because he wasn't even, okay, allegedly he wanted Perdue and Loeffler to win. Mm-hmm. But the phone call that I listened to between Trump and Raffensperger, mm-hmm. He was pressuring to change and find enough votes for Trump to win Georgia.
Correct. Yep.
That still would not have kept him in the White House, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's like what matters to him. I mean, first off, it wouldn't be surprising to me if he had similar calls with other states' officials. So, and then I guess the other part is what matters to him is like continuing these conspiracy theories. It's not about an individual. It's not about an individual like legal win. What matters is convincing his base that something is wrong and getting them to act on that.
Yeah. And ultimately, the Republicans, they kind of shot themselves in the foot trying to spin these conspiracy theories here in Georgia that your vote's not going to count if you send it into the mail. They try to destroy the Postal Service. The packages and envelopes are taking, 2 or 3 months to arrive if they ever do. And all of that, it still wasn't successful. Ultimately, the vote did not go in their way. And not only did they lose the presidency here in Georgia, we again, are sending 2 Democratic senators to D.C.,
yep.
which has not happened in, I can't tell you when.
Before the Southern strategy?
Yeah. So it's nice, and thanks to Stacey Abrams being a lifetime Georgian, that your vote actually means something in Georgia now. Because for so long, everything was so red here in Georgia when, allegedly Bush Republicans were running things. Mm-hmm. And here we are now that, I saw a post the other day that some folks are saying that Georgia needs to vote before Iowa. Mm-hmm. Because Iowa is pretty much being red here for the past unforeseen future. And I think Iowa still even voted for Trump's reelection, right? So,
I believe that's correct.
Yeah. So, go back to your point there a little bit earlier. We have Republicans in fear of their lives. So this is, to backtrack, I even called my congressman, Barry Loudermilk, gerrymandered into his district here in Georgia, when the raid was actually going on in D.C., and asked, I said, you are a conservative, Republican congressman. You've been that way your entire political career. You caused this. And it's a day late and a dollar short for them to come back around and say, oh, no, we didn't mean for anything bad to happen. We can't have violence or anything going on. But you stirred your base. Mm-hmm. And now you're afraid of them.
Yeah. Like, it's just, what do you think is going to be the impact of, like, years and years of, oh, the other party is destroying democracy, and oh, now they're stealing the election? Like, it's just utterly unsurprising, like, what happens when people actually believe that is true. Simply saying it causes real harm, even if you don't believe it.
Yeah. It's just, well, I mean, I feel like we should rename the podcast "Calling Out to Hypocrites" or whatever. But it's just mind-boggling that this is where we are. You've got Trump supporters actually haggling Lindsey Graham in the airport, and threatening him when he even stood on the Senate floor and said that he was one of his biggest supporters the whole way through. It is just it's crazy. And
after all of that, they have the gall to ask for unity.
Oh yeah, so that was the excuse. So, we cannot, impeach him now because it's just going to tear the country apart. Well, I think y'all pretty much did that on your own for the past 4 to 6 years, if not longer. So
yeah, like it, and it's just it's completely it feels disingenuous when they still won't admit that Biden was elected in an illegitimate election. Like, after all of the court battles that the Biden campaign has won, after like all of this, so people are concerned, they have yet to produce any evidence, and yet they continue to spin these conspiracy theories that Biden is an illegitimate president and say, oh, why won't you come and join us? Just
I'm not getting on the Titanic when it's sinking. So.
Yeah.
And if you follow the money, there's been a couple of news stories around that. Many major corporations, they have stopped contributing money just altogether, I think. Yeah. Some of them maybe have targeted some of these Republican candidates that are, calling for, allegedly unity, and, they stirred all this up. And then another story that I think that broke yesterday, the day before, that now there are all these Bitcoin payments that were spinning around, going to these groups that were, supporting, Stop the Steal.
Yeah.
So I think they traced it back to the Bitcoin mining going on in France, I think they said.
Oh.
But who knows where that's going to turn out.
Yeah, that's really weird.
You also got allegations that congressmen were giving these deplorables and terrorists, maps of the Capitol, or walking them around and saying, nod, nod, wink, wink, this is where you'll find this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe the sergeant at arms was actually alerted while these tours were going on. That was like, these are completely inappropriate places to be showing random civilians at this time. Like, it's just like, it just made no sense. And then it's like, who were these congressmen that essentially participated in this insurrection by like giving these people exactly what they wanted to do this attack?
Yeah. It's just mind-boggling. And, my family, I assume because, we didn't talk about politics over the holidays, that a number of them voted Republican and for Trump. That's not how I was raised, to act like these people in this regime.
Yeah.
I mean, if I would have acted like some of these folks are, I mean, suddenly here in 2020 and 2021, it's acceptable to act like just a deplorable idiot.
Yeah.
I just don't understand how these folks can just turn a blind eye to all this regime that's pulled off.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it just goes to show that what matters is who is doing it, not what they're doing.
Yep. So where do we go from here? Biden, watched some of his speech yesterday. Mm-hmm. He's going for, over $1 trillion to help mostly attack coronavirus and help folks that are unemployed.
Yep.
I assume that's helpful. It goes back to some of the stimulus payments. So a lot of people I even see on Facebook is that, well, gee, thanks for the stimulus payment, but it's going right into savings. It's not getting spent.
Yep.
So hopefully, the money is going to go towards folks that really need it, that have been unemployed. They're maybe, a paycheck away from being evicted from their apartments. If I'm not mistaken, there is a provision, hopefully, to keep folks in their homes a bit longer if they're not able to pay. But I think we have to do these things.
Yes.
Because otherwise, I don't know there is no option B. Mm-hmm. You really have to do these things.
Yeah, it's not acceptable to have a system that just allows, like, millions of people to all of a sudden be homeless or not be able to put food on the table. Like, that's how countries die. It's if you create a large portion of your population and have them unable to satisfy their basic needs, that is how people become radicalized. You have to make sure your citizens' needs are taken care of. It doesn't Paul Krugman has the Nobel Prize winning economist. He has a really good Twitter thread on why, like, essentially it doesn't matter if we, like, do this spending on helping people during the pandemic, like, not only because it's the right thing to do, but economically it makes sense.
So I wonder where our fearless leaders are going to lie with that. So my, congressman here in Georgia, Barry Loudermilk, for better or for worse, we actually border District 14 in Georgia, which is where Marjorie Taylor Greene, I hesitate to bring her up, but I think she is, close to about deplorable, along with that Bober lady out from Colorado, of all places. But let's see if she has what she's up to tweeting today, because she definitely. I had this conversation with a friend of mine this week. She knows how to work the media, like Trump does.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, what comes out of her mouth. She doesn't care. It's just stream of consciousness, bullshit flying out of her mouth 24/7. So her latest is that supposedly on January 21st, she's going to file charges to impeach Joe Biden. Oh. Now, if you've been in office only one day, I don't know what the actual reason is. I guess she is going to go back and try to bring up some of QAnon BS. But, she also tweeted about 6 hours ago she's proud to defend gun rights of all Americans. But yet she was hiding in the bunker without a mask with all of her congressmen. She has attacked socialist Democrats for not wearing masks, and these gentlemen look like they're pretty gay, so I guess she's actually going after... Oh, wait, because I'm recovering from the dilation here. She claims this guy gets it. The best short explanation of what the Socialist Democrats are doing in the world with their COVID lockdowns is just an excuse to expand their power and make citizens dependent on the government. It must watch. Well, the gentleman I'm seeing is in a tank top, and he looks pretty homosexual to me, but it's okay, Marjorie. It just goes on, and there's nothing in here that actually talks about helping folks. She doesn't want to wear a mask. She just is oblivious to this pandemic that keeps on spreading. I don't know what it's going to take.
Yeah, because it's just the return of the know-nothings. They don't particularly care to be informed. They know that they get attention by saying things. They know that saying certain things shuts down conversation, and they think that if the other side stops talking, then they've somehow won.
Well, let's talk a little more about Miss Marjorie. So Marjorie thought that she was going to be able to write a check and win Georgia's District 6. So if we rewind a couple of years, we must recall that District 6 in Georgia has turned blue. So Lucy McBath is now in her second term out of that district, and Karen Handel, who had one of the most expensive House races several years ago against John Ossoff, she won against Ossoff. Now she tried to take McBath out, who's the Democrat from District 6, but in the primary, Marjorie Greene actually was trying to primary Karen Handel. And I think somebody at some point sat her down and said, Marjorie, the math just doesn't work here. And you're too cuckoo for this district that is basically teetering back and forth Republican and Democrat. You're probably going to lose pretty bad. So what does Marjorie do? She jumps over my District 11, because I guess Barry Loudermilk, maybe sat her down and said, no, I've got this one. You don't need to come into here. And then goes to Tom Gray's district, which is Northwest Georgia, District 14 up there, and decides to find her a district that she can win, because that's a pretty safe scary district in northwest Georgia. It's pretty rural. It goes all the way to the Alabama and Tennessee state lines. And but I have to call out some hypocrisy here, because Karen Handel was going after John Ossoff years ago, trying to say that John Ossoff did not live in his district. And here we have Miss Marjorie Greene jumping over a district to actually go find her a district that she can win. And she actually did respond to one of my Twitter feeds last year when I called her out that, let's see, what was the happening around them? But I called her out because her name is Marjorie, from the famous scene in Designing Women, when Marjorie, that's the night the lights went out in Georgia. And she actually responded and tried to say, well, some sort of mess that, too poor to vote Republican, and that didn't make any sense to her, that you're just going to get poorer and poorer. But she did shut up. She did continue on and argue back and forth. But this lady is going to be just scorched earth nonsense coming out of her mouth, at least for these 2 years. It's just going to be embarrassing. We did have, 10 Republicans all across the U.S. I know there was a guy up in Michigan that I think this is his first term, and he actually voted to impeach Trump. He says that he's scared for his life. But if we look at his background, he is a filthy rich, I call him Bush Republican. He has ties to the major, I think that's how or major, store conglomerates up in the North Midwest. That's where he got his millions, from his family. But he, drew a little line in the sand and says that no, we need to impeach Trump. But of course, he's fearing for his life. There was a Republican in South Carolina, was one of the 10 that voted, and I think someone was at Arizona. So it's an interesting turn of events, and I guess depending on the timing, if the Senate truly takes this up and Democrats stick together, that we should have a fully impeached president second time around.
I don't remember how many votes it is to impeach in the Senate. Is it 2/3 or is it 60?
Yeah, we need a parliamentarian to help quote that, but we'll see what happens. The other interesting point that came up, so Trump was going to try to escape to Scotland. That was one of his exit strategies, but I call her the Premier of Scotland, or whatever her title is over there. She says, nope, you cannot escape your exit from office to Scotland because you don't have a good reason to come to Scotland. Golfing does not count.
Nah.
So that was her response to Trump trying to leave. I think I saw a story today that supposedly Trump is trying to make an early exit, that he doesn't even want to be in D.C. So we'll see what his next plans are, if he's truly just going to move to Mar-a-Lago or where that's going to go.
Yeah, because I believe Mar-a-Lago said that he could not use that property to live in, right?
Oh, that's right. His neighbors down there don't want him.
Yeah, because the agreement that he signed said that he would not use it as a residence. So, we'll see. And then
maybe the Golden Girls house is available down there.
Yeah, and then
you can have a nice lanai where he and Rudy can, have 3 martini lunches, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, Biden had a good comeback when Trump announced he would not be at the inauguration, and he said that is one of the very few things I've ever agreed on with him. Yeah.
Well, I mean, he would just act like a child and push people out of the way, and you'd have to try to say something. And it is very enlightening now that we don't have his Twitter feed anymore. It is quiet.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got the Capitol BS going on. You've got Marjorie Greene going on. I think Donald Trump Jr. still has his account. But it's quiet. And I honestly say that the media, they're actually having to do more work because they can't just watch his Twitter feed all day. So they're actually having to go out and do real journalism.
Yeah.
And, not just wait for, 120 characters he decides to spew out the next 2 minutes. So we'll see. But on the angles of, Twitter, Google, Facebook, doing these censoring is what some are calling it for the sake of national security.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on how all that went down?
Oh, I just find it amusing how few people seem to actually understand what the First Amendment means. I mean, the First Amendment literally begins with the words, Congress shall make no law. Twitter banning Trump's accounts is not Congress making a law. These are separate entities. But it's weird how many people think they know the term freedom of speech, but have no understanding what the First Amendment is actually saying.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens with all that. I can't remember, the Twitter ban was permanent, or did they say until the inauguration?
The Twitter ban is permanent. For Facebook, it's until the inauguration. Then I don't know how long it is for YouTube. It's at least until the inauguration, but it could be permanent.
Yeah, and I think YouTube also, Google took the next step and said they were not allowing any political ads of any kind.
Yep.
Through the inauguration. Because I remember seeing some very interesting political ads coming across YouTube, kind of disguised as allegedly news stories, but yet they were just, funneled in by the Republican Party and that regime.
Yeah.
So, it'll be interesting to see how that works out. And then poor Parler. So, a case study, both of us having, IT backgrounds of how not to run a social media giant.
Yep.
70 terabytes of deplorable data from the Parler fallout. Number one, the hackers were able to get access to it. Somehow transfer 70 terabytes of data. I don't know, have you ever attempted to transfer 70 terabytes of data?
Yes. But that's only because I have access to systems that can write on the order of multiple gigabytes per second.
So the fastest that these cloud servers could do something like that, how fast could 70 terabytes of data be copied?
Oh, for them, because I actually read into this attack. It all came together in about, it started in December, but it didn't really come together until the day before Parler was taken down. Because really the hard part wasn't copying the data. The hard part was just the way the data was segmented. So they had to essentially individually send requests for each of the files, and there's so many files, it takes so long to run one of these queries that that was more the limiting factor.
Oh, so it was in some sort of massive database, and they were pulling queries to do it.
Yeah, because I guess very, very briefly, the technical details, it was kind of like if the posts were stored in a way where it was really easy to guess, it was really easy to request any post you wanted from the server. All you had to know what its ID was, and they didn't ask for passwords or anything for this stuff, so anyone who wanted to could just pull it down.
But the other irony is that you could sign up for Parler, as I understood it, and then you could be a verified citizen. Well, to be a verified citizen on Parler, you were expected to upload a copy of your driver's license.
Yep.
I'm shaking my head. I mean, so part of the 70 terabytes of data are all these deplorables uploading a copy of their driver's license to supposedly make this deplorable haven more secure, in air quotes.
Yeah, and then they didn't protect that information at all.
Yeah.
Just they didn't. They got all of this sensitive information, and then they utterly failed to protect their users. It's just
so
completely, yeah.
so Miss Marjorie from Georgia, she tweeted, I think last week sometime, just a screenshot of her trying, because a post in Parler was a parlay. Does that sound right? They had a little buzzword. I think they called it a parlay. So Miss Marjorie Greene was in there last week trying to create a little parlay, and she took a screenshot and she said, well, Parler's not working, and she decided to tweet that out. And my whole commentary to that is that deplorables are going to need a lot of tech support over these past couple of weeks to get accomplished what they found so easily, weeks or months ago.
Yeah.
I can't. It's just so, and it's never ending. So even when we end this, go back to the news station, there's going to be something else that is, coming from left field.
Yeah, there's other services that are more robust, and I know some people have been flocking to those, but it's hopefully they will not become as popular as Parler was. No.
All right. So what else is going on that you can think of over these past couple of weeks? I feel like we're missing something.
I guess I have a bunch of poll data that I've looked at on.
Oh yeah, was it you or somebody else was saying this? Was it down to 29% now?
What's 29%?
Trump's approval rating.
Oh, I did not post that. I have not actually looked at his approval rating, so I don't know.
So allegedly, it's like in the 20s. And it's gotten even worse after all this stuff happened at the Capitol. But what were some of the other polls that you had pulled out?
Yeah, you're right. It is 29% now. The polls that I was looking at, it's more how Republicans saw last week's insurrection, and it's like, let's see, it was it's things like half of Republicans said that, like half of people who identify as Republicans said that Republicans didn't go far enough to overturn the election results, which is like terrifying since that's after the insurrection. That 67% of Republicans still support objecting to the Electoral College certification, and and then it's there's a Quinnipiac poll. It's 70% of Republicans said that the mob attack was people trying to protect democracy, and only 23% of Republicans said that they were undermining democracy. Democrats are very solidly saying that, yes, obviously a mob attack on the Capitol as they're certifying the election results are undermining democracy. But it's Republicans are still it is somehow still controversial to the party whether or not such a thing is acceptable.
I guess when you have a regime that all they're worried about is winning and keeping power, this is what you end up with.
Oh yeah, and there's a CBS News poll that was interesting where it's a weirdly nuanced take of 73% of Republicans said that the attack was not an attempt to overthrow the government. However, 56% said that it was an attempt to overturn the election and keep Trump in power, when it's these statements are very obviously contradictory. The government ran an election. Countless judges have said that there's not enough evidence of wrongdoing to do anything to change the results. So it's the Republican Party very solidly believes, or at least the base very solidly believes, that there was an illegitimate election, and it's on the Republicans. It's on the Republican Party members to who've allowed these lies to propagate.
And to go even further with that, here in Georgia, I think Kemp, the lovely governor here, and Kemp is getting raked over the coals because he's got stuff coming from every angle.
Yep.
But he's now wanting to change the rules here in Georgia to get an absentee ballot in the middle of the pandemic. So presently in Georgia, you don't really have to have a reason to request an absentee ballot.
Yep.
You don't have to be of a certain age. You don't have to be in a certain occupation. You just request it, and it comes, and you vote through the mail. And they've even added all these drop boxes.
Yep.
And around the state where you don't have to mail that in because, again, Republicans tried to destroy the Postal Service. So there was no confidence that if you mailed your ballot back, that it would actually get there in time. So allegedly here in 2021, they want to move the goal line again and try to stop, no reason for getting an absentee ballot.
Yeah, they would like
so
to claim
we'll
that
see
it's
where
for,
that goes.
Yeah, they always like to claim that it's for election security, but they have yet to show any compelling evidence that increases election fraud.
And even Raffensperger here in Georgia, he said they found 2 dead people that voted.
Yes, what a rate of election fraud.
Yeah, it's just it's horrible. We got to stop it. 2 people that were dead voted illegally, and I'm sure they can go and trace back to the places that the ballots were mailed to. I guess if you need to get into like handwriting samples, and have a field day with that. But it's not this widespread, BS. Oh, the other thing they were talking about doing in Georgia too is they want you to have a copy of your photo ID to mail back with the absentee ballot. Now, let's backtrack here. To even register to vote, everything is tied together with the DMV. I mean, if you go to get your driver's license, it's like an automatic registration to vote if you elect in. So even to get registered to vote, you have to have had, a photo ID and driver's license and all this kind of stuff, which is even harder to get now because you have to take all these, utility bills and the real ID stuff.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, they want you to somehow make a copy of your driver's license to put in with the ballot as well.
Yeah,
and they think somehow that's going to help Republicans out.
Oh, yeah, just additional barriers mean fewer people vote, and Republicans know that the fewer people vote, the more elections they win. It's and they're also upfront about this calculus. It's not I'm just always unsurprised because, they're very forthcoming that this is their strategy.
So we'll see what happens. It's nice now to look at my elected officials, and got 2 Democratic senators. I've got a Democratic state senator. Here in Cobb County, the chair is now Democratic. My chairwoman in my district in Cobb County is also now a Democrat. I've got a lot more blue candidates, or elected officials here in Georgia. It took a lot of damn work to get there, though. And to thank all of the outside people. We were getting postcards from California, from New York, from all over the place. People asking you to go out and vote, and please, get your votes submitted. So can't thank because I don't know that Georgia could have done it alone. Especially with these 2 Senate races.
Yeah, I hope Texas comes around soon. We're trending in the right direction, but I hope we don't have to wait forever.
Well, you've got Ted Cruz, who's really Canadian out there, by the way. But apparently Canada doesn't want him back.
Yeah.
So he's kind of laying low lately. What's the latest with Ted Cruz?
Yeah, after his speech saying that the election should have been overturned, shouldn't be certified at least, I haven't really heard much about him.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
Bless his heart.
Yeah. Apparently he will attend the inauguration, which is surprising since he continues to claim that it was illegitimate.
Maybe Marjorie Greene will give him one of those masks that she keeps conveniently wearing when it's only to get her more talking points. crazy times we're living in. I can't recall anything that's, anything close to this on the 40 years I've been alive. So.
Yeah, just like long. We've got a long, or I guess a lot of people have a long 3-day weekend, and then it's just 2 days, and hopefully some sense of normalcy will return.
Yeah, and the other, which I guess good irony, Monday is MLK Day, and all of the stuff that Martin Luther King did through his, and he was assassinated by a white guy, as I recall. But celebrating his birthday Monday and then leading into the inauguration, so that's just going to stir up the deplorables even more next week.
Yeah,
you've got Delta. They're not permitting people to check firearms, to fly the firearms into D.C., which D.C. has some of the most strict gun laws in the U.S. That's where a lot of these folks, they didn't get them on the raiding the Capitol or trespassing. They got them on these gun charges. Or the guy that was either the Proud Boys guy or the guy that was leading the Stop the Steal. He's a convicted felon, but yet he had ammunition on this person. So they got him, for you can't have ammunition. I mean, but of course, walking in their shoes, they say, well, this is just all over. The government is just trying to suppress us, and I just can't anymore. So, where else? Any other topics you can think of for this week's episode?
Have you heard the news about McConnell wants to vote to convict Donald Trump?
Well, honestly, it probably will save him a heart attack. Bless his heart, he's ancient. He looks like the Crypt Keeper. He had the black hands and blue lips. It probably would, not at this point. He's not going to lose his district. He's been elected in Kentucky for how long? Yep. So, bless his heart. Appreciate the extra vote.
Yeah, I guess at least he sees it, but it essentially is, what is that going to do to the Republican? What is the Senate trial going to do to the Republican Party? I'm very interested to see what happens with that.
Is this faction, so there's QAnon and that whole crazy mess, but this faction in the Republican Party, do they have a name? Because it used to be the Tea Partiers. But does this new faction in the regime have a name for just, other than being alt-right?
I'm not sure yet. It's like there's Trumpers, alt-right. I'm not sure.
So I'm sure they'll come up with something.
Yeah, but it would be very satisfying if the Republican Party finally split over this and realized, wait, we don't actually want to be associated with these people.
Oh, and that was the other irony, that supposedly Trump, that this was from the UK news service, that Trump was unhappy because all of his supporters look like low-class people.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
So I guess, he's so used to being in Mar-a-Lago with the golden toilets and, flying on Air Force One and everything. He doesn't come outside of his bubble. But then you actually looking at those are my people, and, they look low class.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he doesn't care about them. He wants, he likes to think that, the people supporting him are, good, clean, upper-class white people. Those are the people who want to be president, not people that he wouldn't allow to use his own toilet. It's amazing that he's convinced these people that he cares about them when just it doesn't even occur to him that these are the people that support him.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens, and then his lovely wife. I think she and her people have. I made the joke that because all of the First Lady's staff, they've all resigned.
Oh, that's very entertaining.
And so I don't know if they're going to be working at the Four Seasons Gentlemen's Club or what have you. So we'll see where they turn up, or if there's going to be a divorce or whatever. And then Trump's children will lose their Secret Service details. So I guess they're going to be added to the fire pit with no protection from all of the people wanting their heads as well. So,
I was. There was a article in the last few days about a lot of, I guess, soon-to-be former Trump staffers complaining that they can't find jobs after being in the Trump administration. And it's like, oh, well, I have no empathy for you. Like, you participated in this administration knowingly, and now no one wants to hire you because no one wants to hire someone who would have willingly been a part of this.
Yeah. I can only imagine what their LinkedIn looks like and all their connections. But there will probably be some lobbyists that will hire some of these people with their deplorable connections. And or can you imagine a lobbyist going to knock on Marjorie Taylor Greene's door and wanting to talk to her about something? Alrighty, what else on this chilly Friday?
I think that's all I've got. I mean, unless the Republican Party decides that, until the Republican Party can say that Biden is a legitimate president, there can be no unity or healing because they are still actively hurting democracy. There's nothing else I can say but that.
Yeah. Alrighty, we'll get this one buttoned up. There was, I did get there's an email address now, and I'm starting to use Amazon Parlay to be our intro and extra or outro. But we do have feedback at gdliberals.com now. So if you happen to want to give that out for anyone that wants to comment on an existing, because we were going to do healthcare this week, but with everything, as we talked about, from Messenger, with everything going on this past week or two, we can push that out maybe to the next episode or two, because this was just too much to kind of comprehend and pack into one whole session here. All right, well, we'll get this buttoned up and published out, but have a good weekend. Or hopefully you have a 3-day weekend.
Yep, yes I do.
Yeah, same here. So hopefully we'll stay safe and have a good weekend there.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Goddamn Liberals. We welcome your feedback. Please comment on this episode below or send us an email at feedback@liberals.com.